All right, Shalom. It's your brother Quashab. Coming back at you another lesson. Before I get started, I want to give all praises, glory, and honors unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Ruach and double honors to the apostles and the elders of great millstone who told us true and rule well. And peace, blessings, and salutations be to those who elect, as well as those that believe in the gospel and may you endure to the end, Lord willing. All right, and the so-called government, all right, the U.S. of A, basically released some, quote-unquote UFO files, all right? But, in the midst of that, you have people breaking down the scriptures on the chariots wrong, basically the vehicles of our salvation. And, me personally, this is, it's very plain, all right? As the scripture says, plain unto the holy, right? But ultimately, you people don't know or understand, all right, how we're getting out of America, all right? When we say, we want this place to be destroyed, right? You don't know, you don't understand how we getting out of America, and then when we tell you about these things, or we tell you certain things about the chariots, so they make it believe like, we believe in fairy tales, man, well, we gonna see, all right, in the end, all right, we gonna see, and these so-called images that you're seeing, right, you're seeing, this is clearly a chariot, right? We see them, sometimes we see them in the daytime, sometimes we see them at night, all right, but these are the vehicles of our salvation, all right, whether you like it or not, all right, in which the scriptures describe these things, as the curse that's going to go forth. I gotta put on D&D. All right, these scriptures describe these things as the curse that's going to go forth throughout the whole planet Earth, man. But I'm gonna start off with the book of Zechariah, chapter 5, verse 1. All right. It says, "Then I turned and lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a flying roll." All right. Now, what would a flying roll look like? Like a disc. All right. It would look, even if it was like like in the shape of a cigar, or what is that? Like a pencil, all right, like a scroll, all right, something that's rolled together, right? It says, "And he answered and said unto me, What seest thou?" And I answered, "I see a flying roll." All right. Now, a lot of you Christians get caught up with the whole thing with Elijah be taken up in a whirlwind, which was a chariot. All right. You think it's some horses in the buggy, came down from heaven and got him and went back up in the heavens in a horse and a buggy, man. No, that's not the case. Elijah was called up, in the chariot, right? It says, "Then he said unto me, O Salaki," it says, "What seest thou?" And I answered, "I see a flying roll, and the length thereof is 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof 10 cubits. And he said unto me, This is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth." You see? And when these chariots are running rampant, all right, and they crack them clouds with Yahushua, all right, they're going to be running rampant through the planet Earth, doing what? Destroying, all right, and saving the elect. You see? Well, the elect, really going to get beamed up into that massive fathership that Yahushua is going to be standing on top of, But the chariots, we believe day in, day out, each brother have their own personal angel, right, that's in their own chariot, that's, basically, following them, as it says in Psalms, the 34th chapter, the angels encamping round about them that fear him. We believe the angels are actually encamping round about us, right? And when we look up, you might see a chariot and it'll just take off, That's all through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Shah, because we know that's how we going to get the hell up out of here, all right? What kind of what they call them, damn, what's the word, bro? Is it extraterrestrial? Extraterrestrial, you know? A supernatural being, all right, is able to fly, all right, at thousands of miles per hour, all right? Shit, I even go out and say millions of miles per hour, all right? And then at the stop of a dime, take off and turn left, go in the water, all right? Leave the planet Earth, go into the Shemayams, right? What can do that outside of anything else but the angels? Nothing. That's what shows you that it is the angels. All right, that is our brothers, man. You know? So this is the curses that's gonna go, this is the curse that's gonna go forth around the whole earth, you know, because you actually gonna have chariots hitting people with the laser beams, right? Turning them into the smell of smoke, vaporizing them totally. All right. It says, for everyone that stealeth shall be cut off, as on this side according to it, and everyone that sweareth shall be cut off, as on that side according to it. And I will bring it forth, said the Lord Yahweh, and it shall enter into the house of the thief, and into the house of him that sweareth falsely by my name. You see? And who's that house? All right, Esau, Edom. Okay, the so-called white man. All right, these chariots are gonna go forth, all right, across the planet Earth, chiefly here in America. All right, over there where you have excuse me, over there where you have the fake JOOs. All right, they're gonna be sowing and destroying that. Hey man, the chariots is gonna be all over. All right, wreaking havoc. All right, and it starts with who? Esau, Edom himself. All right. Now it says that's pretty much the point. All right. I want to get that. They said the chariots of the Lord. 20,000, man. All right. Yep. Psalm 68 and 17. It says the chariots of God, all right, of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai are 20,000, and even thousands of angels. The Lord is among them as in Sinai, in the holy place. You see? So they're telling you that the chariots are thousands, man. 20 of thousands, man. All right? They said the Lord is coming back with the whole host of heaven. You see? So when you see that massive fathership, you're going to see millions of chariots with him. You see? These are the things that, people just don't understand. They can't get it. Why? Because they are not destined, all right, for salvation. All right? They haven't been called, and they damn sure won't be chosen, man. At least they repent and the Lord have mercy on them, right? And open their eyes and ears so they can actually understand these things, man. So we're going to go to Psalms 104. All right. I was just Psalms tripping. Psalms 104 and verse 3. I'll start at 2. It says, who covered thyself with the light as with a garment? Who stretches out the heaven like a curtain? And they tell you that in Isaiah, I believe 40 and 21, that the Lord has stretched out the heavens like a curtain to show you that there are different galaxies and, all of these different things, man. When Yahushua said, I got many mansions, all right, that's what that goes into, all these places that the Lord got set up for us, man, and we're going to be able to get in the chariots and go, all right? A brother might have his own planet somewhere, man. You never know, But we talking about forever, for eternity, all right? We ain't going to never get bored, so ain't we going to live forever? Come on, man, But some things is too far for people's imagination, all right, for their vision, okay? Now it says verse 3, it says, who laid the beams of his chambers in the waters? And who maketh the clouds his chariot? You see? So that's why you always look up and you see, man, I think is that a star moving? No, that's a chariot, man. Jake, when we was younger, we say, oh, I see a shooting star. right? But these were always the angels. These were always the chariots, all right, of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, okay? It says, who walketh upon the wings of the wind? The chariots, man. You see? It said, who maketh his angels spirits, his ministers of flaming fires? And who laid the foundations of the earth, that it should not be removed forever, all right? But that's just to show you, all right, that these chariots, all right, or these so-called UFOs, all right, which is just an acronym for unidentified flying object or a foreign object, all right? This is to show you that these things are of our vehicles of salvation, all right? We're going to get that in Isaiah 26. And 20, all right? It's the book of Isaiah chapter 26 and verse 20. It says, come, my people, enter thou into thy chambers, all right? So if we are being saved from something, all right, the Lord is telling, come up hither, come, my people, all right, enter into thy chambers and shut thy doors about thee. Hide thyself as it were for a little moment until the indignation be overpassed, right? So if the Lord, all right, is something that you can enter into and close the doors about, this is not just talking about a fortress, all right? And which, you know, we're not shorting the Lord that he can do that, right? But what else is going to hide us, all right, from the righteous anger of the Lord, all right? When his determination is to ultimately destroy these places, all right, and make America wholly desolate, all right? Well, it says neither no doleful creatures, no wild beasts not going to be there, right? So if America is going to be totally desolate, why would we be entering into the chambers of a building somewhere? No, man, that's talking about entering into the chariots, all right? And they're going to close and they're going to shut the doors about thee, right? We're going to get that in Revelation 15 because we're actually going to see the destruction from the chariots, man, you know? Hey, and if you can't understand the chariot, the chariots are our vehicles of salvation, man, well, maybe it's not the thing for you, you know? Because it's not far out, it's not far-fetched at all. You see? Like I said earlier, it's plain. It says in verse 21, for behold, Salaki, it says, let me break down that last little part. It says, until the indignation be overpassed, all right, till this place be totally destroyed, right? Now it says in 21, for behold, the Lord cometh out of his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity, all right? And how is the Lord going to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity, all right? Their sins stacked on top of their sins, right? How is the Lord going to do that? Through what? Through the judgment, you see? And we understand that the ultimate judgment for America, all right, a.k.a. Babylon the Great, is to be totally destroyed by nuclear missiles, man, all right? By thermal fire, nuclear missiles. Well, we're going to see the concentrated heat, all right, reach in between 3 and 5 million degrees. You see? That's the punishment. So how else do you escape that punishment? There's no other way but to go up. You see? Come up hither. All right, so we about to get that in Revelation, man. It says, for behold, the Lord cometh out of his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity. The earth shall also disclose her blood and shall no more cover her slain. All right? So let's go to Revelation 11, I believe. Might be 12. I think it's 11 and 12. You know, these two go hand in hand. Right? This Revelation 11 in verse 12, it says, and they heard a great voice come up from heaven. Shalaki, they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. All right? So that same cloud that it said in Psalms, 104, right? That same curse that's going to go forth throughout the whole planet Earth, all right? We are going to, it's that same cloud that Yahushua was caught up in. When you go into Acts, man. Let me get that real quick. I think it's Acts 1. Acts 1 or 2. Let me finish this out, then I'll get that. All right, getting ahead of myself. It says, and they heard a great voice come up from heaven saying unto them, come up hither. All right, this is salvation. All right, it says, and they ascended up into heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. And in that same hour, there was a great earthquake, and a tenth part of the city fell. And in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000, and the remnant were affrighted and gave glory. You see? Shalakia. You know, but that's why I said a remnant, it was affrighted and gave glory, man. You know? Why? Because they, you know, like I said, we're going to see the destruction of Babylon. All right? We're going to see the nuclear missiles fall in these different parts of the planet Earth, man. You know? It ain't gonna be no game. All right? The remnant is gonna be affrighted. All right? If we entering into the chariots, and we're going to be frightened, how gruesome, all right, how horrible do you think this judgment is going to be? You see? Knowing that this is the only way that we can escape, man. All right? Now it says, that's it on that. Let me just, right quick. Yep, Acts 1 and 11. It says, I'll start at 9. It says, and when he had spoken these things while they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. You see that same cloud, all right? Goes back to what? The chariots, man, all right? These flying rolls, okay? And when Edras saw Yahushua coming, he said it was like a mountain. That's how big the chariot was, okay? It says, and while they looked steadfastly toward heaven as he went up, behold, 2 men stood by them in white apparel, which also said, ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? And this same Yahushua, which is taken up from you into heaven, shall so come in like manner as ye have seen him go into heaven. All right. And, you know, like I said, he was ascended up into a cloud, and he's coming back on top of the cloud, man. All right. Pursuing the 2nd Esdras, the 13th chapter. Okay. But this is why the so-called government is releasing these files. All right. You know, you can also go to, I believe it's Isaiah 31 and 5. It'll tell you as birds flying, you know. But this is why they're releasing these files. They have a space force, you know. Why? Because they're trying to, you know, do that magic on the people, you know, ultimately for them to understand that, for them to not understand that, you know, these UFOs or these so-called UAPs, all right, are aliens. Well, no, they're not aliens. They're the chariots are the vehicles of the Lord, man, you know. So that's pretty much the point, all right? And with that, we'll go ahead and give our praises, glory, and infinite honors unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachakodash. The honors once again to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and peace, blessings, and salutations be to the hopefully elect. Until the next time, I say shalom.